To begin with, could you please describe your engineering field?
I have a PhD in electrical engineering, and I worked at two different places, for the Air Force and for Lockheed Martin, all with defense-related jobs for military applications.
What was the engineering position you used to have? Could you please describe some of the daily tasks and projects you completed?
Sure. It was, at least at Lockheed, it was interesting because I got to design infrared photodetectors, which would be essentially cameras to be able to see at night. And I would design the parts. I would be in the clean room actually building the parts. And then once I completed building the parts, I would be actually in the lab testing the parts as well. So it was essentially everything from the design to the fabrication to the test. So if something was wrong at the end, it didn't work the way it was supposed to, there was only one person to blame. So that was kind of fun to be able to see kind of the project all the way through from beginning to end.
That's amazing. Why did you initially want to be an electrical engineer? And after college, did you find a job that you enjoyed entirely and could express your passion?
I knew I wanted to go into engineering, and my choice was either electrical or mechanical. I enjoy working with my hands, and so that was part of the mechanical. I enjoy working with my brain, so that was kind of more the electrical side of things. I guess the brain won out over the hands, and so that's how I ended up kind of deciding on electrical as compared to mechanical. And working at both Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as well as Lockheed Martin, I enjoyed what I was doing there. Like I said, it kind of allowed me to see some of the engineering process all the way through from start to finish for certain projects, and that was a lot of fun, very satisfying to know that I had a hand in absolutely everything along the way. I had to have help from some other engineers for certain parts of it, but even so, it was kind of interesting to be able to follow the whole process all the way along.
Throughout the whole school year, we've been doing the design process, and like I've noticed that you had to retest and retest and retest things until it comes out the way you want it.
Yes, and certainly there was a lot of that. As soon as I got done with one kind of cycle through, we'd figure out, okay, this didn't work as well as we'd like, but this part of it worked very well. So then you repeat, what do we change in the design to be able to get it exactly the way we wanted. So we'd go through that loop several times, which I imagine you did with your process as well. That's just part of engineering. So if you want something to work right the first time, and engineering may not be the right thing to get in, because very rarely does it happen that way. Yes, being persistent is a huge help to make sure that it works in the long run.
What is the project you completed as an electrical engineer? Thinking back at this project, what would you have done differently to have facilitated the process?
Probably it would still be working with the infrared cameras. Probably the things that I would do to have made that smoother is I thought I knew all of the answers, and so being willing to talk to some of the other engineers that I worked with that had maybe more knowledge in one particular area that I didn't have, but was very relevant to the task, would have been very helpful. Maybe I would have only had to go through the cycle 4 times instead of 5 or 6 times if I had asked for some help along the way. But maybe the benefit of not having asked was that I learned things. Sometimes lessons you only learn by failing, and so by doing it that route, maybe that was I got more out of it. I certainly learned more by going that route, but as far as doing it more efficiently and maybe doing it better earlier on, just being willing to talk to people and kind of get their input, because everybody knows slightly different pieces of information, so it's always helpful to bounce ideas off of others to get a good feel for it. So.
Why did you decide to become an attorney after previously being an electrical engineer?
they started to put me in the management chain at Lockheed, and that wasn't nearly as much fun as working in the lab, really
Yes.
being an engineer. And so since I was no longer a lot of fun, I decided to go into law school, and law school has allowed me to use my engineering background in a way that I find very enjoyable.
Are you able to apply any of your engineering principles in the job you currently have, as you sort of told me already?
Yes, a lot of the stuff requires a lot of technical analysis, and by having an engineering background, I can do that far better than someone who is an attorney that had maybe an English or a political science background. So that it's been a tremendous help to understand the technology. Frequently when we're working with clients, the engineers at the companies, it's easier for me to talk to them because I was an engineer for a while as well. And so that's been kind of a help, that it's one engineer talking to another, and instead of them looking at, oh, here's an attorney, I need to be scared, has been good. So I think the engineering background has been a huge help in my law career.
Thank you. For the final question, could I please record you saying it?
Sure.
I'm sorry if you feel uncomfortable, it's okay.
No, that's fine.
Okay.